So I was perusing the AI cesspool that is modern X, and I noticed something odd. I was noticing in certain corners of the website, people were discussing Anita Sarkeesian for whatever reason. What really struck me as odd was that in certain threads, people were actually speaking rather highly of Anita Sarkeesian, which is something that 10 years ago would have been considered indefensible by most people on the internet. And this really made me want to kind of go back and revisit the Anita Sarkeesian situation and take a look back, seeing all the time that has passed and see how things have developed and how this moment in internet history changed a lot of things. Now, we're talking about a piece of internet drama that happened over 10 years ago, so I'm going to give you guys a quick recap of what happened back then. If you want a more in-depth breakdown of everything that happened in autistic detail, I'm sure that little red-headed freak Gunnar from Mars has a 4-hour video on it, so go check that out and come back to this, but I will fill you in a bit here. So roughly 13 years ago, Anita Sarkeesian starts Feminist Frequency, an outlet for her to talk about feminist topics in art, mainly video games. And at the time, this wasn't that out of bounds on the surface level, right? People have been talking about feminism and art for decades at this point. You can look back to the 80s with the development of things like the Bechdel test for movies and books and whatnot. So this wasn't any kind of groundbreaking material. People had even talked about feminism in gaming for a while now. I mean, obviously people were talking about Tomb Raider and how the women in JRPGs look and all that kind of stuff. These conversations had been going on. What really made Anita Sarkeesian different was how bad faith her arguments were against gaming. She would often misrepresent certain games. Like the best example is in the Hitman series. Obviously, you're trying to go after certain marks and you're trying to assassinate them in sneaky kinds of ways and minimize collateral damage. But when she was discussing Hitman, she was showing footage of her playing and mowing down people with a machine gun in a strip club and saying, see how these women are just sexual violence objects for men. So this misinformation and these bad faith arguments were very popular with like the drunk wine mom crowd who really didn't have an understanding of gaming. You have to think, this is back in 2013. If you were to ask a random person on the street about video games, they would probably tell you about like Mario or Pac-Man, maybe Sonic, but for the most part, gaming culture had not spread out wide to the mainstream. At this point in time, our biggest champion, our biggest defender of gaming culture was Boogie2988, and that guy has the mental stability of the Tricks rap.
Over and over again, I hate being alive, I hate being alive, I hate breathing, I hate being alive, I'm in tremendous pain, I'm in tremendous pain, help me, help me, help me, I'm in so much pain, I'm in so much pain, I'm in so much pain.
And so in the eyes of a lot of these wine moms that aren't in tune with what their kids are playing on the video games, they thought things just went from Pac-Man and Pong to hyper-realistic hooker murder simulator. And so these salacious claims were getting a lot of traction in the mainstream press, and obviously now there is going to be a counter-reaction from gamers. And at this time, again, this is the Wild West of video games. Like back in these days, there was such negativity in comment sections and on forum boards. Like if you put out a video with a very nuanced opinion of like, hey, I don't think the GameCube was as successful as it could have been, you were going to get death threats back in those days, mainly because, again, it was a super volatile edgelord culture on the internet, but also because most of the people that were talking about gaming on the internet were mostly 12-year-olds shrouded by the anonymity of a blank avatar profile, and so obviously they're going to levy death threats against Sarkeesian, which actually played right into her hand because she was able to go on all these press tours and go talk to the mainstream media about, oh, these evil, vile video gamers. You see, I was calling out their horrific hooker murder simulator games, and now look what they're doing. They're threatening to come to my house and kill me. And this is a problem that a lot of mainstream media has. They can't really understand that the anonymous person on the internet isn't just a de facto adult male. A lot of the times these are children, but because of the anonymity, people don't know that, and a lot of times the mainstream media just defaults to, hey, look, these are military-aged men talking about wanting to murder her over the hooker game. Now, one thing to note before I get into the lasting legacy of Anita Sarkeesian is she often gets lumped into Gamergate, and while though she was not like an active participant in Gamergate, that was Zoe Quinn, she often gets wrapped up in it because a lot of her controversies kind of stoked the flames of that event. but in all actuality, she was not directly involved in Gamergate. She was involved in a lot of the stuff leading up to it and a lot of the impact later on, but not directly as it happened. And I know I just see a lot of people kind of getting that confused on the internet sometimes. Now, Anita Sarkeesian had a long-lasting legacy out past these original videos that she did, because these videos resonated a lot with gaming journalists. One thing you have to know about gaming journalists is all of them started out as just regular journalists. You see, there is no straight career path to becoming a gaming journalist. There isn't a gaming journalism course at any accredited university as far as I know. So most of these people are left-leaning people that are trying to point out injustices in government or what have you across the board, doing regular journalism on like CNN, but just happen to take jobs at like IGN while they were trying to get their start and just get paid. And so a lot of these journalists saw the attacks on Anita Sarkeesian as an opportunity to step in and do some quote-unquote real journalism to legitimize themselves, as this was a plight against a marginalized group in their eyes, and they could sort of show that they are a true journalist and get a lot of that journalism feel while being, you know, a gaming journalist, someone that typically would just talk about Mario. So this galvanized a lot of gaming journalists across, you know, IGN, Kotaku, wherever, to really take an active role in trying to shape gaming into something more inclusive in their minds. And this had a much bigger impact than you would think, because the relationship between game journalists and game developers are rather symbiotic. These game developers obviously want their game to sell, so if they can get journalists talking about good things about their game or earn some quick, easy brownie points by race swapping a character, they're going to do that. I'm not saying that all DEI in gaming was done cynically for the sake of making money, but it was definitely a part of it, whether consciously or subconsciously. And the result of this is there began a lot of division within gaming between the developer, journalist class, and the player base. The player base felt unrepresented in this whole situation, because if you go back in time, the player base were the ones that were angry at Anita Sarkeesian for misrepresenting gaming. Gamers felt betrayed because the developers were lifting up these people that were basically calling every gamer an incel beta chud. And it felt like everything was being developed through the eyes of appeasing the journalists and not the average everyday gamer. And so now we have this sort of counter movement that we've seen going through today with like people like The Quartering and sort of the anti-woke gaming movement that has been pushing back and forth between these two and starting all of these sort of counter movements and sort of guerrilla journalistic groups. This counter movement is often attributed to why Donald Trump won the presidency way back in 2016, because people were so upset about the woke stuff they got galvanized and inspired to join up into politics. This is all a long-winded way to say that Anita Sarkeesian is the leading domino that has led to this divisive space that we are in with gaming, where on one side you have these developers that are trying to own the incel beta chuds by making Kratos a black trans woman that is confined to an iron lung. And then on the other side, you have the super anti-woke gamers that consider a reduction in breast size of a character to be woke slop that kick and scream. It's like gotten to the point that gaming discourse is like impossible to parse unbiasedly, because everyone is complaining about this or that, and very few people end up actually talking about things like gameplay or story. They're just concerned about character models and what this person is saying about the game being part of this movement and representing this. And it's all so weird and strange. And I just thought it was interesting to kind of all tie it back to Anita Sarkeesian as sort of this galvanizing moment. All of this has been built upon the one error that I believe Anita made in presenting such bad faith arguments, to where now we can't even talk as a group and maybe even get anywhere on the progressive side, and we can't get anywhere on the more right-wing side because we've just drawn up our walls, because Anita created such a bad faith environment. And ultimately, it worked against a lot of what she was trying to do. Granted, gaming has gone relatively woke in comparison to like things like movie and TV. Well, maybe not. There's some real weird stuff on there. But I think if she had presented her arguments in a much more good faith and less misrepresentative argument, she might have gotten a lot more of what she wanted and not been relegated to this person of just internet hate. And she never really went on to do a whole lot. The most noteworthy thing she's done lately is, I think, marry herself that one time. Well, I guess she didn't marry herself, but she threw herself a wedding birthday party as like kind of a way to marry herself, which is a very weird thing for a feminist to do, because like if you're a feminist and you don't need a man, why do you need to throw yourself a party that is about, you know, joining up with a man and sharing a singular life? But anyway, she kind of fell into irrelevancy mainly because she was so sort of vitriolic. And I think most people on a deep level, even those on the left side of things, kind of understood that she was kind of a bad faith actor just trying to stir the pot. She was basically like left-wing Nick Fuentes back in the day for gaming. Yes, there are people that are online right now sort of trying to rewrite history and sort of defend Anita Sarkeesian as somebody that like took a stand against sort of the racist incel chuddies of the world. But again, like I said, she did it in such a bad faith way that I think she hurt her side more than anything and inspired sort of what we have nowadays on the internet. And so I don't think she did a good thing for her side or any side if you look at it from a neutral perspective. But what do you think? Do you guys remember Anita Sarkeesian? Were some of you even alive back in 2013? That would blow my mind. If you weren't alive for the Anita Sarkeesian drama back in the day, please don't watch my videos. That makes me feel weird, okay? You're too young for this stuff. Go outside. Put the iPad down. And if you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Check out some more of my videos. I make weird videos like this all the time. I cover gaming, weird internet people. And if you didn't like this video, if you are Anita Sarkeesian watching this video and you're really angry about me, please leave a long-winded hate comment down in the comments. Let's go, 4 or 5 paragraphs at least, okay? I need you to do that. If you hated this video, make sure you leave a 4 or 5 page comment down below. Leave a dislike, share this video to all your friends so you can go, oh, look at this bad man talking bad about lady on internet. He bad. Yeah, and just send it through those groups, send it through those channels so you can just really own it to me. And then, yeah, if you like this, I'll see you in the next one. Later.